All right, looks like we're ready to go. Welcome back, everyone, to yet another Moonshire Monday. Very happy to be here, and very happy to be working on some more Moonshire stuff. So I have up a tile set that we'll be taking a look at today. This is one that's not in the Steam demo yet, but it's going to be one that is, it's been in the video, so you'll probably recognize some of it. But I'm seeing a lot of folks in chat already. I'm seeing Bayron and Explanation, and Mario, Wolf, Jellimations, Gronus. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that. Weltrill, Tijlipa, I appreciate all the support. I know that gate. Yeah, I mean, like, I think I showed it in lots of different videos. Future 34 and Kemi. What I'm going to be showing today is some of the updates that I made to the level editor, or the level, you know, organization system. And visually, it doesn't really look that much different, but I kind of changed how these platforms are generated. And we're like in a big blank room, you know. You can jump up on these higher platforms. And the big thing that I was working on is these connection points, because you can see that sometimes, or if you look through some of my streams, some of these like junctions, these corner tiles, all of the way that these tiles are generated is completely through code. It reads one of these JSON files, like the map that we're in right now is this meadow.json, and all these blocks, it spans, like this spans 1x column or 1x row and 4 y columns, or vice versa. Sorry, I got the terminology confused, but you know what I mean. This is defining all of the different sections of land that goes into the actual map, and this is what it ends up looking like. Is what I made is just like a big bunch of strips of land where they junction off into peninsulas, and it took a lot of work to get this working. Where, because I have this other section over there, I want to make sure I make the jump. Yeah. Oh no, I fell. Okay, I'm gonna try and make that jump, but I have another section of land masses over here. No music. Oh, you're right. I forgot to turn that on. There we go. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm sorry for forgetting to turn that on. This was another special one where it's just like one single tile of peninsula. It was it took so much trial and error to get this working, just because, like I was saying, it's able to convert this JSON file, which is just a bunch of XY spans for different elevations and stuff. Like Z-span 2 tells us how tall the section is. And it's able to convert that all into the... First, it's the collider sizes, so it's able to determine... These green boxes basically match the dimensions of what's defined in the JSON. And then the hard part is converting these green boxes into the tile sets. It has to actually build up the cliffside wall and then build up the surface grassy portion. And that's another thing. Excuse me. My throat's really scratchy today. That's another thing, is that before I had the tile set kind of combined. I wonder if I can show that. Give me a second while I pull up some of these old tiles, because it's gonna be nice to see like how they look before compared to how it looks now. So here is an example. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Is that the tile set looked like this for the elevation and stuff, and functionally this worked okay. This was fine, but what became problematic is like scaling things out, and what I'll show you is what I changed it to. I changed it to where there is now a cliff tile set, and there's now a grass tile set. This grass tile set sits directly on top of the cliffs tile set, so it combines them. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because now I'm able to like mix and match different tile sets. I could have like a section of cliff tile sets that use the same grass surface, but maybe it looks different. And actually I have that over here. Here. Look, I have these like craggy cliffs. And it's perfectly possible for me to have a different cliff tile set that uses the same section of grass, and it's using this more craggy variant. So the goal with this one looks a little bit different too. So I think that these tiles were made by an artist named Beowulf, different from our Mod Wolf. And I'm trying to remember, I think the original variant was a purchased asset, but then I made so many edits to it now. At this point, it's a group effort where it was originally purchased, and then I commissioned someone to make it more Moonshire-y, and then now I've been making my own adjustments to make it like mesh with the code system, you know. Next video could be about showing the level editor. That is actually the plan. Yeah, I want to make another devlog just like the previous one, and I want it to be about the. I'm sorry for stuttering so much. I want it to be about the level editor. I think that'd be really good. But before I can really do that, I have to iron out all these issues because there's some, you know, craziness. How am I today? Thank you for asking. I'm doing pretty good. My throat's scratchy. I keep stuttering and I keep kind of not landing my delivery quite right, but overall I'm doing pretty good. The predict is crazy. Oh yeah. Let's see. So I wanted to show how you can like jump across these. Whoa, that is so tricky. But if you get the timing right, you can do like a whoop. Oh no, you can like jump across both of them. I'm gonna try it again. I was having a lot of fun with this map last night, where I was just like trying to jump between the different platforms. Because this is like a parkour game now. Oh, I can definitely make it. If I don't do a flip jump on the second one, I can make it. I can do it. Yeah! Okay, that's awesome. Now I remember. Oh, shoot. Ah! It's so easy to fall off. It's like kind of slippery. And also my jump isn't high enough to get up on this second platform. Aw, man. Okay. Well, now I'm going to move on to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is stacking. I think he's having more fun doing parkour. The game is a lot more fun now that you can parkour, that's for sure. The next thing I worked on is this other map type where you have a stack. We have elevation on elevation. Now, this is something that I haven't shown at all in any video or any stream because I just I didn't get it working yet. Here we have an example of a big section of like land at the bottom. You jump up onto it and there's more elevation on top. And this does still work. You can jump up on here. Functionally, it's working pretty good. But there is a problem that I was struggling with for like a couple hours last night. I was trying to fix this. Is that you see how the Y sort looks really good, how I can walk down to this edge and my player covers up these tiles, but when I flip around to the other side, these tiles cover me up because I'm underneath of it, right? And when I jump up on here, now I'm on top too. And same with this one up here, but when I walk up to this edge, ooh, the Y sort's broken for these tiles. That's not good. That's not good. I can jump up on here and it's fixed. But the moment I fall back down, I fall through. So there's an issue with the rendering. And it's going to add coyote time. That's not a bad idea. I could do that. I need to figure out what's causing this issue. And I've been trying. I've already sunk a couple hours into trying to figure this out, and I keep screwing it up. Because the whole system is so fragile. It's so fragile when you make one change to the algorithm for this sorting, it can kind of break everything else. Will you remake all the old true levels? Yeah, everything's gonna be remade. Can't you just use elevation to sort it? That's what I'm trying to do, but something's getting screwed up in the old pipeline because this is still a really complex system, right? Because we have all of these tiles on the ground level that need to be Y sorted, along with the player needs to be Y sorted, along with these tiles need to be Y sorted. It's just something about the position handling is not quite right. Do you make each tile have different code? Not exactly, because the first iteration of this whole level system, I did do that. But that is a big performance cost when every single tile has its own logic running. Because you could have a map with thousands of tiles, so every loop you have thousands of like logic things going on. That'd be too much. And it was too much. If I had even a moderately sized map, it just started to chug. So it doesn't assign like logic to every individual tile. What it does is it figures out chunks. It figures out chunks of tiles that have the exact same behavior. So the algorithm likely selects all of these tiles that I'm standing on, all of these, because the Y sort for these tiles down here is going to be the exact same. So it groups all of these. This is like 100 tiles that I'm standing on. It groups all 100 of these tiles together. And it might even group all of these up here, which brings us up to like 1,000. I don't know how many tiles it is. Maybe not 1,000. But it groups all those together. So rather than separating it out into a whole bunch of different logical loops, it's able to group them, and then it's much more efficient that way. When will the game be out? Yeah, I'm not quite sure yet. The better question is, when will the next demo update be out? Because that's the main challenge. That's the main thing that I want to do, is get this version of the game out so that people can like jump around and play with it. But I need to get all of these like fundamental things working first. The level editor kind of needs to be ready for people to try it out, because I can't make levels that are good until things optimization exactly until things are optimized. So I think you get the idea. Can you just use normal Y sorting but add the elevation value? That's what I'm trying to do. What I'm saying, Mr. Banana, is it's easier said than done. Is that I feel like I'm implementing it correctly, but when I run it, it's not working as expected. And that's just a consequence of coding, is that sometimes you have to fight the code, and sometimes you have to figure out some little detail that's screwing it up. And that's what's happening here, is that I think I have all the logic correct. I don't know what's causing this particular strip to behave differently than this strip, because this is the weird part, right? Is that it works down here, but it doesn't work up here. And these are very similar structures, right? They look like it's the same sort of stuff. So that's why it's challenging, because it's able to work down here, but up here the scenario somehow changes. There's some offset values, like you're saying, the Z elevation value sort of screws things up in terms of the like math involved with sorting and rendering everything. So we're on the same page. I think that what you're saying is true. It's just implementing it is not as easy as just like explaining it. Explaining logic is a hard step in developing software. Planning things out, but then executing it can be hard in itself, because here we can take a look at the code for this. I have a specific full file called ysort, and this is actually not that long of a file, honestly. 500 lines roughly, but we have all of these different conditions: acquire merged, copy entry. So these are like utility functions, actually. A lot of it happens in render as well. Render has become crazy complicated. This file, actually I think that a lot of it has been offset to ysort, so render is pretty approachable as well. But when we start to consider, these are all the graphics files, all of these files here. Each of these work together in order to render every single frame. So every single frame, if the game's running at 60 frames per second, 60 times per second, all of these files are working together to figure out, okay, how is this frame going to look? How is this frame going to look? This frame, this frame, this frame. It's constantly like running all that logic together. And I'm pretty sure the issue that we're discussing is happening in ysort, or possibly in level 2 tile. There's a lot of tile classify clusters. It could be in cluster because the clustering logic could be setting it to the wrong elevation somewhere. It could be lots of different things. How do you optimize that? Yeah, the way that you optimize it is kind of with the clustering logic. So clusters is the whole idea behind the clustering is that I was saying how if every single tile was running a Y sort independently, we have like 1,000 tiles here. I don't know how many, maybe like 500 tiles that we see on screen right now. If all 500 of those tiles was running each of these individual graphics like things on them, it would be very costly. So cluster combines those tiles together into clusters, and then it runs each of these graphical commands on each cluster. So it is still like expensive to run all this, but rather than running those graphical commands on 500 tiles, it's running it on more like a dozen clusters, and that's much more performant, especially when we get up to tens of thousands of tiles in one map. I don't know if I'd be able to pull that off, but managing 1,000 clusters is better than 10,000 tiles. Also, hopefully you guys can't hear any of the noise outside. It is raining, and hopefully the thunder doesn't pick up too loud. Has lots of scripts, very complex. Yes, it is very complex. The way that I try to make it work is to organize it by module or by core functionality. And that's what each of these folders here are. Under code, we have all of the different folders. And like level and level 2, these are duplicates. I'm reworking the level system right now. This is what the previous one that I've been showing on stream and in my videos, and now I'm kind of rewriting it a little bit more cleanly. But the way it works is that all of this engine code, these files collaborate together pretty closely. Like the hitboxes use the collision, which uses the physics, which uses raycast, which uses the update loop, and so on. So all of these files interact closely. So keeping them combined into this engine folder concept, you know, I think that helps out a lot. And it's the same with effects. It's the same with the data, because there's a lot of save data, a lot of things that get managed in memory or get saved to files. These Lua files here manage all that data, and they work together to pull that off pretty nicely. The cluster play with collision or just sprites? I think that it is for the collisions as well. Well, I would imagine that it kind of probably does it for both, because it might be doing it for both. It might be doing it for both. So if we go back to this map, because this one's more complex, we can see more of these colliders. And each cluster generates the slabs. So I think that you're right that it is using it at the moment for both the slabs and the tiles. The reason I'm hesitant about that is that I remember some very hyper-specific scenarios where the tiles do kind of break, like for example up here. It is possible that like these tiles up here are behaving in a different way than the cluster, than the tile down here. It is possible that these are clustered off. Happy Moonshire Monday! How do you ever manage optimization using Lua code? Do you ever worry about stuff like the garbage collector? That's an awesome question, and in general, the garbage collector has done a pretty good job in general for me, but I do have to worry about anything that I manage, because let's pull up. I'm going to use the old level code because I know that more recently. Level, well, not more recently, but I worked with this for more time. This level has a lot of data attached to it, like self.map, full path, properties, and all of these properties for the level, which is just like the stuff that you see in the environment. All this stuff gets saved into this level object, which is kind of small. I'm gonna make it bigger. So this level object has all of these properties for managing the data involved with the environment. And when you change between levels, for example, if I'm playing the game and I'm in this map and then I suddenly transition to this map, there's a lot of data management that I manually have to do myself to transition the map like this, because you can see it got rid of all of the slabs, it got rid of, I say slabs, it got rid of all of the colliders, it got rid of all the previous tiles, and it started us from scratch. Also, that song that just played, I might remove it because it's kind of obnoxious. This song, on the other hand, is the opposite of obnoxious. Do your enemies act like voids? Bodies? Like if one enemy close move forward, he move forward? So the only example of that I have is if I go into mob and then I create a slime that follows the player. Yo. Oh, it's not gonna work with level 2. Oh, dang it. The pathfinding is broken. I'm sorry. He's not gonna jump up here because I'm in the middle of this reconstruction work. But the way they do it is they have like a radius of how close they need to get to their destination, and if they're not close enough, then they like figure out, they do a raycast to figure out what direction to take. And normally they're able to jump up on ledges, but since I'm like reconstructing all of this stuff, he's kind of confused. Man, I'm sorry, my nose is itchy and my throat's kind of scratchy. I'm sorry about that. There can be probabilities that when switching maps, the player can spawn inside those colliders. Oh, I don't know what you mean by that. Did I do all the drawings? I didn't do all of them. I did a lot of them, but like these tiles here were made by an artist named Beowulf. I made the slime, although I did kind of base it off of a paid asset pack. So I buy a lot of asset packs. I commission a lot of artists to help with stuff. Tris Pixels worked on a lot of these, and Ellie worked on a lot of these too. A inside the tiles. I still don't really know what you mean. Inside the map colliders. When switching map, the player can spawn inside those colliders. Oh, you're saying that like, okay, I see what you're saying. Is that this collider up here, this wall is here, and like that, and I can like go up into it and then change maps. Like if I stand right here, you can see it like pushes me out. Or if I stand here, it pushed me out. Let's see if I can find a better example of that. Right here. Oh, like that really pushed me out. So that's a benefit, honestly, of the physics system. So this is Box 2D at work. All of these green boxes you see are based off of Box 2D physics system. What's up, Wilson? Thank you for stopping in. This physics system has a really nice benefit where if the colliders overlap when they shouldn't, it pushes them out. So that's how, when I swap to this map, this big slab at the bottom actively pushes my collider out of it, and so it works that way. What will I do for level transitions? I think that I have I can't. I've crashed the game. Transitions are broken right now because I'm still working the levels. But what I'm going to do for level transitions is you walk out of bounds, and then it transitions you to the next map that's in the sequence, and I can probably show that. There we go. Ooh, it's thundering like crazy. And we got the Moonshire, or not the Moonshire, the Deltarune music. Oh, it's broken. It doesn't know what the map is. Thought the player would be stuck inside the maps. I think that if you weren't using a physics engine that's fleshed out like Box 2D is, you would have that problem. That is a benefit of using Box 2D. Box 2D is a heavy system of physics. It is heavy. If you're using Box 2D in your game, that's kind of overkill for a lot of scenarios because it takes a lot of processing power to have all of these colliders on screen, and if you don't need it, then you shouldn't use it. But one of the benefits of using a heavy system like this is that it can handle a lot of those complex, scenarios. I just had my first game jam with 3 other people, and they weren't that good except one other guy. How should I start making game without dependencies on other people? You kind of answered your own question, is that the most reliable way to make your own games is to be capable of doing it all yourself. I'm capable of doing it all myself, but when I notice something that I could use help with, for example, with more of the complex sprites, I can do some of the simple sprites like the player, but some of the more complex sprites, like some of these tile sets are made by commissioned artists or paid itch.io artists. It's good to collaborate in those cases. So that's generally what I recommend, is just doing what I do, where you make your own games, you're in charge, you're the leader, everything falls back to you, and you do everything. And when you find something that you literally cannot do, that's when you work with someone to fill in the gaps. But that's generally a challenge of working on a team, is that people are going to have different levels of experience, and they're going to be like, they're gonna be invested at different levels too. Some people are gonna care a lot, and some people are not gonna care. It's like school, you know. When you're in like high school and you work in group projects, there are just some kids that do not care about their grades, and so they're not gonna care. They're not gonna try. They don't worry about it whatsoever. And so it sucks to be paired up with them because now you have to work and they don't have to. Yep, I mostly develop my own games alone. Yeah, I think that's the most reliable way to do it. But we kind of talked about this last week a little bit too, where you're talking about being partners or being in a partnership or like a small team. That is if it works, then it's going to work out great. But when it doesn't work, it becomes really challenging. Me and the other guy are still in high school, so are the other ones. I understand that. As fellow game dev, some of the code in this is honestly genius. Thank you. I think that it just took a lot of time and iteration to get to this point, because even though I keep like restarting the different code files and cleaning it up, each iteration gets better. I'm not wasting my time by like ditching the old code. I feel like I'm building it up over time and improving with each attempt. Sorry, I'm stuttering so much today. I apologize for that. So, let's see, what else should I mention? Whoop. Oh, I didn't make it. I really want to get good at doing that. I'm really excited for this game to like have speedrun levels or parkour levels. Like, even Minecraft has parkour events or speedrunning challenges, and I think those are really fun. Even though Minecraft was not really built for that, the engine is just good. It feels good to run around in it. What I think about AI and game development? I think it's fine. As long as, in general, the way I see it is the players care about quality. They want to play good games. And AI gives you the opportunity to be lazy. Do not be lazy. Do not produce lazy games. Do not get lazy with your production and rely on AI. But if you can use AI to improve your product, to make things better, to make your code better, to make it more reliable, to bug fix, and to have things, you know, just more smooth in development, I'm supportive of that. I think that's great. And then, you know, I don't use it for any art. I don't use it for any like music or anything like that. If someone did, I think that would be fine as long as it looks good. But I understand why that's controversial. That's we're in a awkward transitional phase. I don't know how to feel about, you know, it feels awkward when a creative concept like art or music is being infringed on by AI. That feels bad. But at the same time, can we just say like, are we just going to say, nope, we're not going to use AI at all anymore? Like, I think we're already past that point. I think that the industry already is using it. We have that thing where Larian was using it for their concept art, even. If they're using it for concept art, imagine how if they're using it for like textures or like very mundane models or for testing the code or for deploying things or for... Dude, it's probably so deeply integrated into their systems if they're using it for concept art. So I think that we're past the point of like, dude, I don't know. But we can definitely agree that there's some concerns to be had with it. From now on, I was playing. Yeah, I love this. I love the music from this chapter. I think it's awesome. This is great to see. I got an idea. Sorry, of your stuff and helping me out with concept as 2D top down as well. Thank you for what you do. Awesome. I'm happy to hear that. I was super excited about game dev. I thought I was better than all the kids my age. I decided to quit, sadly. Don't quit. You don't need to quit. The only way that you won't become a good game developer is if you quit. Because I'll go ahead and pull it up. I know I talk about it a lot, but I had a game development YouTube channel from when I was a kid, when I was 12 years old. If you go to YouTube and you search for Game Maker Crab, give me 1 second while I pull it up. I don't like having my recommended stuff and subscriptions come up, but there's this YouTube channel, Game Maker Crab, on YouTube, and this is me. This is from when I was a young kid. You can see like 16 years ago, it says. So I was 12 years old when I made this first video, and the stuff that I was making in these videos was really bad. This is what it looked like, is that I just ripped a bunch of Zelda sprites and I put them in Game Maker and made them walk around. Good luck. Oh, heck yeah! Rebirthing by Skillet. The Last Night by Skillet. That's so cool. Dude, that was when I was in my Christian rock phase. That's sick. Skillet? Oh, yeah, dude. If there's something you can't get right, please comment and I'll help. Yeah, it does. I don't think the Skillet music is in there anymore because this was back in the day, 2009, when you could just put music into your YouTube videos and it was awesome. It was amazing. You could just like play Skillet in your Game Maker tutorials and everyone loved it. But no, advertisements had to come along and ruin all of that. Well, no, it's more that people have ownership of their creative property. I think that's probably a good thing. I think it's a good thing in general that you can't just take someone else's music and play it. I'm just, it says 13 hours ago for the current stream. Like, this is the stream that's going on right now. Anyway, I was just checking out your demo at a cave. You know about the glitch near the initial walk. If you come in front of a cliff and your feet show through a cliff. That initial demo has a lot of issues. And the code base that like we're looking at right now, all of this code that I'm going to be working on for the next version, it's entirely different. It's basically a completely different rewrite of everything. And I think that some of the bugs that are in the demo currently probably are not really relevant anymore. But also, like, you come in front of a cliff and your feet show through the cliff. That sounds pretty minor, if I'm being honest. I'd say the most urgent bug in the demo is when you pick up the fan, like you get soft locked. It doesn't crash the game; it soft locks. I think that the soft locked fan is the worst bug in the game. Okay, but anyway, the reason why I showed my old YouTube channel is because that was 16 years ago, and the games that I was making back when I was 12, 16 years ago, they were not good. They were ugly and they were bad, and there was no AI at the time. I was just drag and dropping the things into Game Maker, and you can just do that too. Just do that. Just pretend like AI doesn't exist and use Game Maker, or use whatever you want. It literally doesn't matter. Use any game engine. They're all good at making games. Game Maker at 12 is still impressive, bro. Thank you. Yeah, I think so too. The story behind that is I was a fan of Nintendo Power magazine, and there was an ad for a book for Game Maker, and I got my dad to buy it. I was in 4th grade. It was either 4th or 5th grade. I know that for sure. Adele, hi, welcome in. Is Game Maker paid to publish games? To publish games, probably. Well, let's pull it up. Let's pull it up. I don't normally like making specific recommendations for game engines because they're all good. They're all good. And start making games. Let's see. Where do we show? Maybe it shows here. Where does it have the price? Game Maker price. Yes, export license pricing. There we go. Have I ever made I played the Carlson demo? No, I've never heard of that. So you can export to desktop for free. Dude, that's awesome. You can export to mobile for free? Oh, wait. Why does it say, why do these both say include the same thing? What's the best way to animate the character, assuming you have a sprite sheet? I mean, it's just animating the character. So I use Asprite for animating everything, and Asprite's helpful because it has the frame system. The problem would be the non-commercial license. Yeah, it sounds like when you use the free version of Game Maker, you're not supposed to sell it for money. And here is my recommendation. Do not sell your games for money when it's your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th game. I've probably made 20 games in my lifetime, and the number of games that I've sold for money where I would need a commercial license to do so is exactly 0. It is 100% 0. And I've been doing this my whole life. I'm still not at the point where I'm charging money for it. So if you have an interest in game development, do not get hung up on this aspect of it. Because here's the thing. If you end up wanting to sell a game for money, spending $99 to do so is the least of your concerns. This is nothing. You have so many more costs involved with selling a game for money as a business than 99 software cost. This is the smallest amount of cost you can anticipate when you're selling something as a business and paying taxes. Oh my gosh, this is the smallest amount that you can possibly imagine. So I wouldn't worry about that aspect of it. I would just use the free version of whatever game engine you want to use. They are going to be fine until you get to the point where you become a business. And if you become a business and like you actually form an LLC and you have like a website and everything's registered and all the payment and paperwork is taken care of, you have the licenses for all your other software and all your other, like, because this is just like this professional license, this is just for Game Maker. Imagine all the other professional licenses you have to get as a company. There's more than just this. So, and just because I don't even have the money to pay that, if you do finish your game, even if it's somehow your first, then you can then buy the license. As far as I know, yeah. As far as I know, yeah, you can just wait until you finish it. It's the same with Unity. Don't take my word for that. That's the impression that I get, because it says free to use. It is free to use Game Maker. You can use Game Maker as much as you want. It seems. It just says non-commercial license. You have to read up on the details on what that actually means. Here we can actually let's do it. This is the free runtime license. This license has no cost. Lasts for the durations of your accounts. You can export to all of these platforms. That's so awesome. And you can do commercial license for .gx games, which is like the that's probably runs through Yo-Yo Games or something like that. Don't see Toby Fox or Concerned Abe and get fully inspired. Your first game will mostly fail. Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you actually want to succeed at game development, you should expect your first game to not be successful. It's the same if you were practicing music. Like, if you picked up a new instrument and you played a song, like, the first song that you play is not going to be good. Or if you were a songwriter, the first song that you write as a songwriter is probably not going to be very good, I hate to tell you. So don't be so hung up on the idea that you wrote a song and then, like, it didn't become a huge hit, first of all. How many songs do you have to write before you can get a hit on the radio? It takes a long time. It's the same with this stuff. Someone starting fresh, do you recommend streaming, making videos to document the process and growth? In my opinion, because that is a good question, because it's finding that balance. Doing YouTube videos has helped me a lot because it's helped me gain an audience. That's a big aspect of it. But I will also say that spending time making videos means that you're spending time not working on games. And in general, if you want to be a good game developer, you have to spend as much time as possible working on your games. If you stop making games to work on a video, because a video takes a long time to make. If you want to make a good video, it takes a long time, especially if you're new to game making. Or if you're new to game making, it takes a long time to make games. And if you're new to video editing, it takes a long time to make a video. So they're both two separate skills. And if your goal is to, like, build a channel like mine, where it requires both, then yeah, you do have to do both. But if you do both, it means that both are going to be slow-paced growth. That's another reason why I bring up my old YouTube channel from 16 years ago. The videos that I made back then were horrible. They were made by a 12-year-old who didn't know anything about video editing. And even if you're an adult who never did video editing, you'll do better than a 12-year-old could do. But it still takes a lot of videos before you kind of get into the rhythm, the feel of producing a video from start to finish. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. So if you want to develop videos, you have to accept that it's going to slow down your game making process, because all that time that you spend working on videos is just time not spent working on the game and improving your game making skills. So I think they're both really valuable skills. I love being a jack of all trades. I think it's really valuable for me being able to put together my own videos and produce everything from start to finish myself. I love that. But like I said, I haven't sold any games for money. I haven't, like, I was just talking about how I've never needed anything beyond this free license because I've never charged money for anything. So that should demonstrate for you how slow paced this is that 16 years and I still haven't charged money for it. Well, maybe you don't want to follow my advice, and maybe you want to take a faster path, and maybe it'll work out. I don't know. But I do know that I have absolutely no regrets myself. The way that I played out my own skill set and built up my skills over time, it's exactly what I would recommend to everyone. Is that if you were 20 years old right now and you had no experience, I would tell you, plan to release a commercial game by your 30th birthday. That's what I think your goal should be. You should spend the first couple years of your 20s making small, simple games. You should make the next few years making games that are more complex, maybe dabble in 3D, still not charging money for these, but you're building an audience. Maybe if you want to produce videos on top of that too during those 10 years. But then once you reach like age 28, now we can start thinking, okay, I've got 8 years of experience under my belt. I've been making videos this whole time. I have a lot of experience now. I feel like I got a feel for what it takes to make a full-fledged commercial game. And it's still going to be modest. It's still going to be small scale and achievable. But that's what I think would actually be reasonable for someone to achieve game dev success. So that's a hard pill to swallow. It's hard to accept for someone to accept that their dream game will take 10 years to make, as opposed to 1 year. What would you say about making a custom game engine for fun or to make games with? It just depends on what your goals are. Because, like, I love that I made a custom, engine. Custom engine is debatable. It's Love2D framework, but all of the engine functionality feels very custom at this point. And, again, I personally have no regrets with doing that, but I wouldn't say it's an efficient route to getting a game completed, because I have a feeling that everyone in the audience has different goals in terms of what they want to accomplish with games. And some people do just want to dabble. They just want to experiment with engines and create their own things and share it with their friends or make videos about it, all for the sake of experimenting and exploring tech. And I think that's awesome. I think people should do that. But if you do that, you have to accept that getting a full finished game published and sold is not really, that it doesn't align with that goal. So just make sure that you have your priorities straight. I think it's awesome to experiment with engines and understand on an engine level how things are working, because I love that stuff. It enables you to figure out deep problems or make fundamental tweaks to the like physics, for example. The way my physics works in my game is very customized. Like Box 2D doesn't have a Z-axis, but in my game it does. And that's only possible with a firm understanding and firm integration with the physics engine. So really, I think a lot of people out there, there's the goal of, I want to make a game. I don't care what the game is, I just want to make it. And if that's your goal, make sure your game is small scale like Pong, and make that. Some people out there are like, I want to make my dream game, and I think that's still fine to have that goal, but you have to be realistic with it. A dream game will not come in the first couple of years of you making games. It won't even come in the first 10 years of making games, if you ask me. I'm 16 years in, and I'm still working on that part. Pong mentioned, yep. Pong mentioned, always mentioned. Is to do game dev full time. Income is blended from YouTube, streaming, Patreon, and game sales. I don't expect this to happen for a few years minimum because I have a day job. Personally, that's an awesome goal, and the fact that you have a day job is fantastic. My recommendation is to keep the day job and build up that business side of things, the income stream, while you have the day job, and only quit when it is consistently paying your bills. And if you do that, you totally can do that. YouTube as an income stream can totally work as long as you treat it like a business. Like, personally, I don't treat my YouTube channel like a business very much. my channel isn't monetized very much, and it doesn't make very much money. Like, I couldn't pay my rent with YouTube income, for example. I think right now, I showed it on stream last week, actually. I make $300 per month from YouTube. It's less than that, actually. And my rent for my one-bedroom apartment is $1,200. So my YouTube channel, which I would say is a pretty successful YouTube channel, makes $300, and it doesn't even cover half of my rent. JJK, welcome in. Streams are always 2 hours long. Yep, they go until noon CT normally. So what I'm getting at is, if I wanted to make YouTube more realistic as for paying the bills, I would have to put effort into it to do so. It's more than just posting videos, because like my most recent devlog video, it's doing really, really well, but it didn't make enough money to offset the cost of producing that video. It took a lot of time. 150k subs. Yes, I'm so proud. Thank you. YouTube is going to sell your game though. Yes, you're right. You're right. That's kind of the intention behind it. Is that I'm making all of my content free. The demo is free. My videos are free. My tutorials are free. I guess the Udemy courses are paid, but it's like a loss leader. It's like a business that has something in their store for really cheap or that's free, and it gets people into the door. They get this free thing, or like coupons. People have a bunch of coupons that get free stuff, and then they go to the store with all these free coupons, but then they end up buying a bunch of other stuff while they're there. And I would say it's Costco hot dogs. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Is that like all of my content and my game right now is free, and streams are free. I'm not really, and I don't have sponsors. That's the other thing. Is a lot of YouTube channels have sponsors, and that's how they become actually monetizable. Is that if I posted one video a month and I had a really strong sponsor in it, that could be enough to pay the bills. But that takes effort, and that also takes there's a cost to doing a sponsor. You know, inserting a sponsor into my video is like, there's a cost to doing that. A YouTube channel can definitely be a way to pay the bills. It's my full-time job, but it definitely takes a lot of time, probably as much as a day job every day. I would imagine so. JJK, yeah, it's cool to hear from you, because yeah, you're the one that's actually doing it. So my YouTube channel is not really paying my bills. I'm paying my bills through other income streams. YouTube is more of just like a communication factor. It's a way to get my work out there. And if I were to treat it like a business, I could, but it would change what my videos were like. It would change the sponsors. It would change the ads. A lot of things would have to change, and I would have to put a lot more time into that aspect of the business of YouTube, and that's not something that I really want to invest time into. I kind of want to invest my time into game development. And someone earlier was talking about how their goal was to be a game developer full-time, as your full-time income. And that's where I'm like, I personally don't want that. That's not a goal that I personally have. I don't really want game development to become a business. The business of art doesn't feel, it doesn't feel like a fun part of it to me. I just want to make games that are fun and good. I want to make the best game possible, and I like making videos about it. I like sharing my stuff. But if I had to make money on top of that too, from all these things, that would be kind of a bummer. That would kind of sour the experience, I think. And also, it would add a lot of stress to the whole thing. Like now, if I had bills to pay that I wouldn't, if I had to use YouTube income to pay the bills, well, now I can't spend the month working on the game. Now I have to spend the month working on a really good video, and it has to perform well. Otherwise, like, the income's not going to be there, and now I have this extra stressor in my life, and it's like, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But again, you have to acknowledge that if your full-time job is YouTube, that means you're not going to be working on game dev as much. If your full-time job is selling games is your job. Making games is less of your job. That's what I'm getting at, is if you want selling games to be your job as an indie game developer, that's a big task compared to making games. Like, anyone can make games. You should just make games. That's my recommendation for most people. What you're doing, it would definitely help your game. Business doing YouTube for the marketing is great. Yeah, I think so too. Turning your hobby into your job is always complicated. Making Minecraft videos used to be my hobby, now it's my job, but it doesn't feel the same. Not sure how to explain it. I know what you mean. It's the same with musicians, is that I grew up around musicians. I was in band, and I performed with lots of people. I know a lot of musicians, and I know a lot of musicians that went all the way. They got the degree in music, or they are full-time musicians now, and they do still like music, but they treat it differently than before. Before, it was strictly, I'm playing music for fun. I'm playing the songs that I want to play. I'm recording music that I like. I'm recording my own stuff. I'm performing in the things that I want to perform in. But when you're a professional, it's not really like that anymore. Now, you take gigs. Now you play music that other people want to hear. Now you make music that pays the bills. There's a business incentive with your performances, and personally, I wouldn't enjoy that aspect of it. I feel like it would sour the whole music experience for me. I do gigs sometimes still. Like, I used to, for a long time, play in the orchestras for community theater shows, and those paid money, but I never really cared about the paycheck. But there were some people in the orchestra with me that really did care about the paycheck. They desperately needed that money in order to pay their bills, and I get that. That'd be stressful. What I'm getting at is, when we're talking about a career, when we're talking about full-time day-to-day, is it worth like saying I'm a full-time game developer if it means that you're actually spending a lot of your time not developing games, or you're compromising on other aspects of your life? The important thing is just to enjoy the journey in general. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm always a little hesitant when I hear full-time game dev, is that that can mean a lot of different things. Like, if you're working as a game developer at a company, that's pretty solid. You're getting a paycheck that's regular. But if you're a full-time indie dev, that to me is just saying I'm a full-time software salesperson. I'm a business person who sells software, and getting the product created is part of it, but getting it sold for money so that you can pay your bills is the bigger part of it. And that's the part that I personally don't like very much. Asking people for money, I'm very uncomfortable with that. I think it's more fun to let people use my product, like ChallaChat, for example, the chat software above my head. I had the option to charge money for it, you know. There are apps on Steam. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. On Steam, someone asked what instrument I played. I played bass. That was my main instrument, but I also play... now I just play guitar. Guitar is my main thing now. I played saxophone in high school as well. What was I going to look up? I was going to look up SheepChat. Yeah, SheepChat. SheepChat this is an app that I used for my chat overlay for a long time, and they charge $10 for the app. Perfectly reasonable. They have every right to. But personally, I think it's better just to have the app available for free. And like, people aren't using it yet. I have not been sharing the app. I haven't been telling people about it. But the app is called ChallaChat, if anyone's interested. It's free. It's free and open source. And over time, it's going to be improved more and more. But I really think that for YouTube streaming, it's like the best option possible. And I've told people about how I released this for free, how I put all this time making a free app, and they're like, "Well, how are you going to pay your bill? How are you monetizing it?" And I'm just thinking, I don't really want to monetize it. If I ever decide to stream, you'll use it. Awesome, cool, thank you. When you feel the need to monetize your art, and calling this art is totally a stretch, but let's say that you were a musician or an artist or a developer, a game developer. It has the jam built in. Yeah, the jam feature is something that I made myself for ChallaChat. That's why when you say jam, it doesn't do anything in the YouTube chat. It's not something that YouTube supports. That's not a feature that they have at all. It's just something that ChallaChat has. This is just a labor of love. It literally is. Well, more than a labor of love, this is a labor of something that I needed. It's that I needed a chat overlay that was good. And there wasn't one. I showed SheepChat a second ago, and SheepChat is fine. It gets the job done. But I did run into technical issues with it regularly. And also, the latency was not very good because it used like the cloud commands to render the... Or sorry, I think it used cloud APIs in order to receive the chat messages. So it wasn't as responsive as my chat thing is. So I made the app for myself, mainly. And since I made it for myself, I didn't really feel any need to charge money for it. I just made it. Passion fees where money can't. I think you're right. That's a good way of phrasing that. Just like the last Moonshire Monday when you said you would like to make your own physics logic open source because Winfield is not being supported. Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing is I use open source software a lot. I'm a big fan of using it. And over time, I've become a big fan of contributing to it, of posting lots of repos on GitHub. I'll go ahead and pull that up. I know that y'all are probably sick of me pulling up my GitHub page, but I'm just so proud of GitHub. I love GitHub. But GitHub, you have all of your public repos, and you can see all of your contributions. This past couple weeks, I haven't been doing too much on GitHub. I've been mostly doing art-related stuff. Beginner on GDevelop, can you please give me some tips? My biggest tip is to start with some very simple tutorials to get a feel for what the engine is like. But then after that, jump into your own simple game. Something really easy, like Pong, and code it all by yourself without tutorials. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really challenging. You're going to have to look some stuff up. But overcoming that challenge is how you learn. I don't think it has to be like that. I used to make websites as a hobby. Now I make websites as a hobby and for a company whose projects do not inspire me. It doesn't have to ruin the experience. You're right. There's always a spectrum with this stuff. There's always going to be a solid middle ground that you can land at. That's going to be the best case. Like for me, I think that I'm a really good example of that. How my passion is in game development, and like I showed my YouTube channel, I was making games since I was 12 years old, and it would have been very easy for me to just say, I want to be a game developer. I'm gonna get a degree in game development, and that's it. That's my passion. I'm just gonna do that. But I didn't. Instead, I got a degree in computer science, and I became a programmer. Even though I cared more about games, I did see that software in general, that programming, just like as a discipline, was used everywhere, not just game companies, and that having a job, you're doing a job, and coding on the job is a step towards game development. It's close, and in fact, it's perfectly reasonable for a computer science person to go get a job at a game development company. In fact, I bet a lot of them do. I don't think that you need a game development degree to work at a game development company. I bet most of them don't. I think that a lot of people have specialized disciplines, and that specialized discipline is what gets them in the door. I'm really a little hesitant to normally hear about game development degrees just because it's so specific. It's so specific. It just cuts out so many companies. You could be a programmer, you could be a graphic designer, you could be a business person that works at a game company, and then if the game company thing doesn't work out, you can work at some other company. Because I don't know if you've heard, the games industry, like all the companies that hire game developers, they're not doing super hot. You hear about layoffs pretty regularly, and if I was a young person deciding on a career, I would take a look at all those layoffs and the number of open positions and how competitive it is, and I would think to myself, I wonder if there's something tangential, not exactly game development, but something that can still scratch that creative itch while still providing me a solid, comfortable, consistent, good career. Because I also always say this too, is that even though like it doesn't cost money to work on your game, when you're an adult and you have bills to pay, it does cost money. Because let's say that you are an adult and you have your own apartment like mine. I have a 1-bedroom apartment and it costs $1,200 per month. It's ridiculous. So you have to make $1,200 at least every single month just to get by. And if your job, like if there's a layoff, or your job is underemploying you, like you're only getting 20 hours, for example, or something falls through and the career side of things is a little bit shaky and your income isn't covering all of your expenses fully, now you have to think to yourself, okay, I have $1,200 in rent that I need to get by the end of the month, and I can't rely on the job side of things. My career's not cutting it. So what do? You have to think to yourself, am I going to spend, and let's say you have a free Saturday. Do you spend that free Saturday working on the game, your game? Or do you spend that free Saturday working a part-time job somewhere and actually getting a paycheck? You could go work somewhere for money and then you can pay your bills. That's the scary reality that I want to get people aware of, is that when you're out on your own and you don't have someone paying your bills for you, then it's really stressful when money is tight. It is so stressful that you won't really be able to focus on anything else. And that's why, like, the business side of things scares me. I don't really like that aspect. I wouldn't want to rely on my creative side to pay all the bills. So much Pokemon. I know, I'm a big fan of the Pokemon soundtracks. Honestly, I think that the Pokemon songs is the most used section, or like the most used genre of games. There's so many of them. And actually, I just added a couple more, because I added some Pokopia songs. Hey, what's up? Welcome in, Purely Ian. Welcome in. Just working on some, well, I was working on a lot of different things, but I got sidetracked talking about lots of different things. CS degree is more general, but way more applicable to other domains. My experiences in web dev made me understand game logic for easier. I could focus on the concept rather than syntax language. Yeah, in general, sorry, I'm stuttering a lot. In general, I'm totally with you, is that, like, I also worked as a web developer with my CS degree. And I'm totally with you that programming in general gives you skills that carry over to other programming disciplines. So even though I wasn't coding games, I did code lots of stuff that could be applied to games. And that experience is super valuable. I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked playing with the do website coding. Yeah, when I was at Microsoft, I was a web developer. What are the green lines? The green lines are I'm sorry for not even explaining that. The green lines are the physics colliders. So you'll see that when you walk into the wall, it stops you. But at the same time, when I go up, I can walk through. I can walk through these walls when I jump. Well, you have to jump high enough. There we go. And that's how that works. And actually, there's... I don't know if I ever showed the fields. So the way that these slabs work, I call them slabs, that you walk on. There's fields, too. This is how it actually works. There's the pink box and the green box. The green box is the solid wall that will stop you if you walk into it. And the pink box is the walkable surface that you can land on and walk around on. And you'll see that the moment I walk out of the pink zone is when I get pushed out. So that's how these slabs work. And even these ones up here, there's like an offset system. And that's why there's like a gap here. Like I can walk behind these slabs, but as soon as I walk into it, it stops me. Planning on mobile version for Moonshire? I plan to try. That's what I keep saying, is I plan to try. Because publishing on mobile is exceptionally difficult, way harder than desktop. How do things render with Love? Do you just use build in function to render things, or do you have to make your own renderers? And do you have a separate renderer for all those debug lines? The answer is separate renderer. So I have my own render.lua that collects all of the different things and uses this Y-sort algorithm. So this is all where it's like collecting all of the different sprites that get rendered, all the different tiles. And then in this file, it takes all those assets and it figures out how things get sorted. So it is highly customized how it gets rendered, and then the debug happens on top of that as well. Actually, I think that the way this works is debug show colliders is a flag that's accessed by the other modules, like slab. And then show, no. No. I guess I can just look up where this is happening. Huh? Why is it only happening in this file? Oh. No, that's still confusing to me. Am I not searching? Why would that happen? I'm trying to figure out why I can't find any examples of debug.show colliders. Certainly that's what it's using. Well, let's just go to the slab and draw colliders. Let's see where this is being called. Oh, it happens in debug. Ew, I don't like this. Or maybe I do. Maybe I do like this, actually. Do I like this or do I not like this? What I forgot that I moved all this stuff into debug.lua. This is probably better to have it here. What I thought is I thought that the draw colliders logic, I thought that it happened within the slab. That's why I was searching this file for that, but it actually happens here. It just says if show colliders, then okay, it calls it from here. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, so you could draw colliders without worrying about the debug flag. So that does make sense. You make Moonshire Monday about composing music for the game. I could do one for that. I think I showed music a couple times on stream. It belongs in debug, easier to exclude for production. Yeah, I think that it is better here. Before, there is a case to be made for having it in here. Let's say that the debug drawing was highly specific between each object. Like, let's say that the green lines and the pink lines and like the player's collider, let's say that the debug shape and the way that it rendered was very different between each class. If that was the case, then I do think that having it separated would make more sense. But in this case, everything is just, it's either a rectangle or a polygon. It's super basic. Everything's so consistent that it does make more sense to have it shared in debug. Music might be tough if you have to talk all the time in the stream. Yeah, it would be tough. It would be more demonstrating like what I use. It would be demonstrating like Omnisphere. I use this synth called Omnisphere, and it's my favorite thing on the planet, but it's so expensive, and I don't really recommend it because it's so expensive. I'm just a student studying CS, and I'm even doing a per-time job as a waiter at a restaurant. Awesome! I'm just into game type. Any tips for me? You're doing exactly what you should be doing. I love that you're working part-time at a restaurant because I don't get the opportunity to talk about that very often. When I was in high school and college, I worked at Dairy Queen, and that job was one of the most important steps for me having a good, solid career because I learned so much just like adult skills, working on the job, responsibility, and also it was fun. So I think that, first of all, you're doing awesome, like working while in school. That's great. And then you're into game dev. My advice is just to start making games. You're already studying CS, that's awesome. You'll realize very quickly that the stuff that they teach you in computer science school doesn't help you make games at all. Like, it doesn't really teach you how any of the stuff that I'm showing on screen works, even a little bit. It shows you how to read code. It shows you how to algorithmically solve problems, but it doesn't actually teach you the end-to-end steps of making a game. That's on you. You're gonna have to do that. And honestly, I feel kind of the same way about game development school too. I've never been super, well, I'm not gonna speak on that. But in general, what I mean is computer science or school in general, all these projects are kind of in a vacuum. They're designed to be solved, but when you're on the job, the problems that you solve are not designed to be solved. They are hard, difficult problems, and it's important to kind of build up those skills over time. So that when I say tips for you is to get started, just start making a game. Just start making one, and it's still going to be hard. Even though you have some CS experience, it's going to be really hard to kind of like wrap your head around coding to make things happen in a game environment. Follow some tutorials to get a feel for what the like engine is like, whatever you choose to use. But I always recommend branching off and just trying your own thing. Trying to make your own game. Something easy, something like Pong, is like the 4th time I mentioned that this stream, but that is a really, really good thing to work on just because you'll overcome so many challenges trying to make your own game like that. I finally finished my Asteroids clone. Took more about coding than the 3 colleges I took in uni. That makes sense. That's awesome. Congrats on finishing your Asteroids clone. That takes a lot of experience to do that because you have like the rotational values and you're having bullets like move across the screen at an angle. You have instances of objects. I assume that you could work on class structures and maybe there's a camera and score and you have the background, you have a UI. If you wanted to save data, you could save like high scores to a save file and reload that. The math was fun. Cool. That's one of my favorite parts too. And all of that stuff that I just described, that's just for Asteroids. Asteroids is such a simple game, and even that is heavily complex. Asteroids game. I wish that there was a better, more consistent way for me to pull up, like, image examples of these. But Asteroids is like a top-down space game where you play as a triangle, and there's these asteroid, like, shapes moving around the screen, and they wrap around, too. But this is an awesome game to get some practice with because there's so much that goes into this. But someone earlier was asking like tips for someone new to game dev. Even this, I think, is a little bit too complex for someone who's new to game dev because it requires more stuff than something like Pong even. I've also tried making Space Invaders using Raylib. Nice, cool. I love seeing the progress. Thank you, Willowmere Studios. Thank you for stopping in. The hardest part for me was organizing the entities and figuring how these saucers work. Nice. I mean, and what's cool is that now that you figured that out, you'll probably be able to reapply that same information in your next game. I think that that's the whole point, is that by making these, the getting it working in Asteroids is the goal, but the end goal really is that you'll be able to utilize these skills in a better game, into a more fully fledged full game. Hopefully less spaghetti code next game. That's what it takes. It takes a lot of practice. I was talking about how my game has tons of spaghetti code and I keep like rewriting it. Super, super common. Have I ever created games without using object-oriented programming? Yes. All of my Game Maker games. When we say object-oriented, that means that the data is organized in a way where things are parented. You implement code here, and then this object receives that same code because they're linked. And with Game Maker, there are ways to parent your objects. There are ways to do that. But I did not. So like when I made this Zelda fan game, all of these objects were basically... Okay, let me take a step back because this is still kind of object oriented. For example, you can see all the trees. Each of these trees is an object instance of the tree. Or like these pots, there's a pot instance over here and a pot instance over here, or the statue instance, or whatever else. There's probably gonna be like enemies in this room. And that is a good first step. That is object oriented to like spawn instances of an object. But where I failed to properly make it object oriented is when you have the objects linked. It's when you see like that skeleton there behaved similar to other skeletons, or like maybe in this dungeon we'll see other enemies. What I'm saying is that all of the skeletons are the same class, but that class is entirely separated from like all of the Deku Scrub classes, or all of what other Zelda enemies are there, all the Moblin classes. So instead of having an enemy class that all of the other enemies were parented from, I mistakenly just had the baseline. I just had every class separated, and that probably still qualifies as object-oriented, but it's not really achieving the goal of having things like that skeleton guy there was an entirely these Zoras in the river. Those enemies, everything is just custom coded from the ground up, but each type is the same, you know. Metatables scare me. Yeah, they kind of scare me too, if I'm being honest. The point about school problems designed to be solved and work problems with no solutions yet is a really good point. Yeah, it is. Is that when you're on the job and someone's paying you a salary, if the problem was easy to solve, it would just be solved. It's going to be hard, really tough challenges, and like sometimes you can look up online like Stack Overflow or someone solved something similar, but it is normally something that is you're working on something new. I learned a lot using Pygame with Python. Would you recommend Lua as an alternative? I tried C++ before and I can't get the hang of it. Lua and Python are pretty similar. They are pretty similar. They both have a similar structure and the syntax is similar. The way you run them is similar. So if your goal is to find a language that's more comfortable, then sure. But I don't think Lua offers that many advantages over Python. Like if you already know Python, you can just keep using Python. If you want to use Love2D, then you can switch over to using Lua and Love2D, or if there's something specific you need to use Lua for, like maybe a Roblox game, or there's lots of Lua scripting in games, or in lots of things in general, then that makes sense. But I don't really think that you'll get much benefit. Another thing is you also don't need to make it that big of a deal. I should encourage you that if you know Python, you already will be really, really, really comfortable using Lua. The languages are so similar that you will have to spend time understanding the quirks. There are some differences. Like Lua isn't object-oriented like Python is. So you have to figure out some of these slight syntax changes and organizational differences, but I don't think that you should be too discouraged by different language, new language. I think that when you are a programmer, you will eventually become language agnostic. When I interviewed at Microsoft, I interviewed using Java. Like all of the interview questions were using Java, and I had to code on a whiteboard using Java. But they don't use Java at Microsoft at all. They use C#. They use the .NET stack. So why would they interview me in Java? And the reason why is because they asked me, what language do you want to interview in? And I said, I've been practicing with Java. And they said, okay. And that's it. Because is that when you're working on stuff, it doesn't matter what language it is. They all achieve basically the same sort of stuff. I started almost 6 years ago. That sounds about right. I kind of have a hard time specifying exactly when I started because, you know, it's debatable. But even this Zelda fan game is similar. I took a lot of the concepts that I learned from implementing this Zelda fan game. I learned so much from making this. And by the way, this fan game is super ambitious. This is not something that I would recommend a newcomer to work on. I've used C# with the .NET environment to make a video game and mono game. Yeah, it makes sense. I have a tutorial on that as well. I'm mentoring a CS college intern right now and finding out that the program they're in does not cover troubleshooting/debugging in any meaningful way. Troubleshooting and debugging. Yeah, it would be. It's nice to have those features, but at the same time, like, what language is this? I use Lua. All of my code and all my engine code is in Lua. They should do a better job of teaching debugging and troubleshooting, because there are programs where you can like stop the code mid-execution and then step through line by line, excuse me, to see the values of everything. Because like in my streams, a lot of the times I show myself doing like print statements like this. And this is how cavemen would debug their programs, is they would do print statements, and you would say like camera snap to 180, 240, director initialized. Like these print statements are nice, but these days we have technology. we have debuggers and we have troubleshooting like step through code where you can stop mid execution and step by step execute line by line. It's amazing. And you can like see the values of all of these different values. Like camera snap to 180, 240. It shouldn't be necessary for me to print that out because it should be better. It should be some kind of debug tool where I can just see the value at all time. It'd be nice if there was something like that. We had to run debugger code in our C and assembly code, step by step. Real pain to set up, but very useful. That's awesome. That's cool to hear. That's some true caveman behavior. I love hearing about the classic ways that software was developed because by the time I entered the workforce, which was 2017, things were pretty modernized by that point. Electrical engineering class, wow, that's cool. That's really interesting. My first experience with programming was Minecraft command blocks, and surprisingly, a lot carries over to actual programming. I'm with you. You would be surprised. Even Game Maker. So this game here was made with Game Maker, and Game Maker is like a drag and drop program. So if I go up to videos and go over here, the way Game Maker works is you like drag these different commands over into like a coding window. It's not really a coding window, it's just like a logical flow. And this is obviously very different from coding, but like look, if lives are larger than max lives, that's just like what code would say. That looks really similar to Lua code right there. If then. I loved drag and drop as a kid. I was so scared of GML. I used Game Maker for probably 5 or 8 years or something like that, and I did not write a single line of GML. I just used the drag and drop actions completely, and I loved it. I loved it. And then when I was in high school, I took a programming class, and I'm like, okay, now that I'm taking a big boy programming class, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to trying to learn an actual programming language rather than drag and drop. But then I realized this isn't that much different. Like, dragging and dropping these modules is not that much different than writing a line of code that does exactly this. It really is so similar. Dumping vars is a valid start, but step debugging and learning how to read documentation issue queues for third-party code is incredibly valuable and not obvious. You're right. It's not obvious because it's different from IDE to IDE. It's different from software project to software project. Even if it's a Visual Studio project, if it's like a web project versus a game project versus like engine code or embedded software, all of that stuff gets really different in terms of how it gets debugged, you know. I used Scratch for 10 years and it helped so much. Nice, that's cool. I never used Scratch, but I taught Snap at a high school in Washington. Do I code daily? Yes, I code every single day, without exception. I guess maybe there's some exceptions, but yeah, it's just part of my routine. I talk a lot about how people talk about motivation. Like, I don't feel motivated. I can't get motivated to work on my game. And I don't have that problem because I am disciplined. The trick is you just work on your game every day. If you have a busy schedule, which most people do, just say, I'm going to work for 30 minutes every day on my game. And that doesn't rely on motivation at all. That relies on discipline. It takes discipline to organize your schedule in a way where you work on a game for 30 minutes every day. And 30 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a lot. Right now, I'm trying to play guitar for 30 minutes every day. And that's hard. That takes discipline to sit down and practice something when you don't really want to. Because I'm trying to practice my scales and get better at like picking. I'm pretty good at strumming, but I'm not good at picking. And like all this time, I was just like, I'm not gonna worry about playing my scales or picking. I don't need to practice that stuff. But now I'm at the point where I want to, and I still don't. Well, I don't want to is the thing. I don't want to practice, but I want to be good, so I need to practice, and it requires discipline because I don't want to practice. That's what it is. I've never used Game Maker. I'm mostly making my games using Love and Mono Game. Cool. Well, I mean, that's cool to hear. I'm a big fan of those too. That's what I'm most familiar with these days. I'm most familiar with making games in a framework like this, where it's like mostly code-based. I've kind of changed away from using full-blown engines, but I do love engines like Game Maker because it's just so approachable. It's so organized, and they solved a lot of the tricky problems to getting started. I'm currently learning making games 2Ds in Java. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading today. I'm stuttering bad without an engine because I think I can learn more how games really work. That's awesome. And I bet that you will learn how games really work by implementing that sort of stuff. The big benefit of something like Love2D or libgdx if you're using Java, any sort of framework, is that they solve the fundamental problems for you. Such as, right now, we can see that the player's sprite is being rendered on screen in a window, like in an operating system window. This is Love2D. This is the framework at play. The framework is interacting with the operating system to get this window created. It's interacting with the operating system to read my input. That's how I'm able to use the arrow keys to move around. And the framework, Love2D, is handling the graphics processing. It's the one taking my image. I gave it this image, and the framework, is handling the rendering process of putting it in the window. Because it's handling the operating system window, it's handling the input, it's handling the mouse, that stuff too, and it's handling all the graphics. And that's the value of a framework, is that a game developer might not really want to spend time doing those things. They might want to spend more time creating characters, creating levels, making game mechanics, doing things that are more game design, game development. But the engine that it runs on is still very important. It's just the question is, do I want to use a pre-built engine that someone fixed up and dedicates themselves to fixing up? Because that's the thing, is that my custom engine, if there's bugs in the future, I gotta fix it. And if you're using Unity or Godot, if there's bugs in it, someone else is gonna fix it. Especially if it's a popular engine like Godot or Unity. Is it Monday? Oh yeah, it is. I could try to make a game engine like GameMaker, Godot, or Default to learn how those engines work. I mean, that would be cool. Essentially, I think all it comes down to is that, like GameMaker, the drag and drop system, is that it's just a window with these blocks and stuff that you can move around. And under the hood, I imagine that it's just converting all those blocks into written code that looks exactly like this. Not exactly, But I imagine that those blocks that you drag and drop actually do get converted into written code. But is Java really bad for games? I know that C#, for example, would be better, but Java can't be that bad. Or is it just because C# has Unity and Java just frameworks? No, there's this big fixation with developers and software people on languages and engines and what's best. What does better even mean? Java is not necessarily better or worse than C#. You could argue one way or the other. C# has some benefits. You could argue that C# is better, but programming languages, it's like real world languages. Is English better than Spanish? No. They're just different languages. You could argue, though, that English is a valuable language to learn because of how widely used it is. And it's the same with Java and C#. Neither one of them, you could argue C# is better because it's more modernized, but they're both fine. They both can make good games. But there is an argument to be made by how widely used it is. C# is more used in game development because of the big player engines. But Java can definitely be used. I've used Java with libgdx and it works fine for me, but I decided monogame with C# because of personal preference. Everything comes down to personal preference. If you like Java, make games with Java. There are no rules. People make games with Java all the time. My rule of thumb is, if there exists a game that was made with a language, with an engine, with a framework, if there exists a good game made with it, then that's all the proof you need. You can make a game with it. These questions of what's best, it's all subjective because the best engine is the one that you like using the most. If I told you right now, no, you have to use Unreal Engine, you have to. There's no other option, you have to. Then you would say, okay, well, he said I have to, and then you would download it and you'd use it, and maybe you wouldn't like it. Maybe it wouldn't run well on your computer. Maybe you don't like the way that, I don't know, the workflow, the pipeline. Maybe you don't like C++. Maybe you don't like the blueprints, is what they call it. Maybe you don't like how bloated the exports are. There's so many reasons why you would choose not to use Unreal Engine, but yet you could make an argument for why it's the best, because visually it looks really good. But if you don't like using it, you're not going to make any games with it. If I told you that Game Maker is the best, like I was just showing you those videos of Game Maker. I like to say that Game Maker is really good for beginners, or for really anyone. But if you don't like using it, don't use it. If you don't like using Game Maker, you're not going to make any games with Game Maker, because you're only going to make games if you enjoy it. I was talking earlier about how this is a marathon. I've been making games for 16 years, over 16 years. That's just when my first video was posted, was 16 years ago. It takes a long time to build up these skills. The language and framework that you like the most? Yeah, if you don't like what you're working with, you're going to burn out. You don't want to burn out. It's hard to do game development for 10 years. So do everything that you can to make it easier. Have I tried Phaser? Yes, I have. I actually made a Phaser game. Is it... Oh, I wonder if it's posted somewhere. I'm going to see if I can find it. Where in the world would it be? I don't know how I would find it. I'm going to see if I can find it, and I'm going to post it to my website. Because it would be so cool to like show, yeah, I made a Phaser game. Go play it right now. So for people who don't know, Phaser is a web game framework based on JavaScript. Phaser game engine. And Phaser seems like it is really powerful. It can do awesome things. There's cool games made with it. The reason I personally wouldn't really... again, personal preference. I personally don't like JavaScript very much. So I personally wouldn't enjoy using Phaser. But Phaser is widely supported. It's been around for a long time. It's really good. It's open source, I think. Yeah, it's open source. So there's tons of amazing benefits of using Phaser. But just for me personally, I don't really like JavaScript, so I don't use it. I can make web games using Love2D. What's my website called? I have a few. You can go to ChallaChat.com or ChallaCade.com. I'd say go to ChallaCade.com. That's probably my best one. It's very simple. ChallaCade.com. And this is probably where I would post the Phaser game if I get it working. But what Phaser is it's a web game maker. So it allows you to make games that run in your browser, and all the games are built using like JavaScript. But the thing is, like, there are other engines out there that can make web games. You can use Unity to make web games. The web player works. If you go to necrozone.com, this is an example of my Necrozone game, and it's running in a web browser. So even though Love2D isn't really a web framework, you can export it to web if you know how to. Happy Monday. Logged in late. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Listen to that 2x playback speed to get caught up. Well, that's super kind of you to do that. Thank you for being here, Rick. I appreciate that. You want to try out Construct? I've heard good things about Construct. Check out... What's his name? There's a YouTuber that I'm a big fan of, and his name is Construct. What's his name? What's his name? Who's the YouTuber who has like a pixel monkey as his icon? What's his name? What's his name? I'm a big fan of his videos, but for some reason his name's slipping my mind. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for forgetting your name. No, not Code Monkey. Code Monkey posts like daily or like really frequent videos. Game Endeavor is not the one I'm thinking of either. I'm gonna think about it. Oh, it's so embarrassing that I can't think of what his name is. I actually put his name in a script. Forgot his name too. Give me 1 second. I need to pull it up. It's been like a year since I pulled up his channel, so I can't quite remember what the name was. But I talked about it. I talked about his channel in one of my videos I didn't release, so I can probably find it there. Oh man, I'm so sad. I don't think I can find it. What a bummer. Give me 1 more second. I'm gonna... Vimlark! It's Vimlark, thank you! Buffalo Jake! Buffalo Jake found it. It's Vimlark. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for forgetting his name because I love his channel and he makes really good games. But he uses Construct. He uses Construct, and he showed in some of his videos how he live streams. He live streams his development, and then... Oh, it's so cool. He's able to like post his updates live to a web page, and then the people watching his stream were able to play his changes in real time. It's amazing. So yeah, thank you for finding that. I'm a big fan of his channel. So I would check out some of his videos because he demonstrated it in some of his like. I'm gonna actually try to see if I can find it. This is the video I'm remembering. This is the video I'm remembering. But in this video, he goes through his process of making this game end to end, but in parts of it, I want to see if he shows the editor. Oh no, this is Photoshop. Yeah, here he's showing his stream, and he was like, he had a QR code. Look how cool that is. He had a QR code up on his screen, up on his stream, and then people were able to scan the code and then play the build. Isn't that awesome? That's so cool. Your channel is my favorite and most watched channel when it comes to game development. Awesome, thank you, Ender. That's so nice of you to say. Wyvern on YouTube. How's it going? Thank you for stopping in. Just showing off this video from Vimlark. I'm a very big fan of his channel, and the reason I wanted to show this video is because of that QR code thing. How Construct has these cool features, and that QR code thing I thought was super, super neat. So anyway, shout out to Vimlark. I know that I think that he watched my videos because he followed me on TikTok at least. Okay. We've got 20 minutes. The existence of pirate software implies the existence of Navy hardware. It kind of does, you're right. Now what I want to work on is the tile sets, because earlier I was showing the cliff and grass tile sets. Looks like Vimlark streams on Twitch now. I think he always did, and that was just like a video of his stream. I think most people stream on Twitch, if I'm being honest. I think I'm more of an outlier choosing to stream on YouTube, but I like streaming on YouTube. I think it's awesome. I like that the VODs go straight onto my channel under the live tab. I think that's awesome, and it feeds my VODs into the algorithm. That's awesome too. The ads generated are good, and I think that being able to rewind your streams is really good. I don't know if you can do that on Twitch yet. So there's a lot of cool features like that, but Twitch has some benefits too. I like the culture on Twitch. I like the chat culture, I should specify. I like that the chats have a lot of like silliness and lots of emotes and crazy stuff happening. I think that part's nice. I think the donation culture is better on Twitch. And I stream on Twitch every Monday as well. So if you want to watch my Twitch stream, I'm going to be streaming at 7 p.m. Central. That's in a little over 7 hours. So if you want to stop by ChallaChat Twitch, I'll be there in 7 hours, or 7 hours and 20 minutes. How does your custom level editor use those tile maps to make levels? Yeah, that's the big question. Is that it takes first before anything else. It figures out where is the ground level at. And the green lines that you see, that's the ground level. So the first step that it does to generate these tile sets, to generate these tiles, is it takes the map information, the meadow.json, and takes all of these block datas, these block objects, and it converts them into like the shape, the green box shapes. So once we have the green box shapes, that's when it builds up like the cliffside. The cliffside always attaches into the green box, and it extends upwards. And every one of these blocks has a z-span. This decides how tall it is. So all of these are 2, except for this one. This one's 1. And that decides how tall it is. So this span is a block 1 tall, which means I can jump on it. This one is 2, and I can't jump on it because it's too tall. You can rewind on Twitch, but only when you are subbed. Wow. Okay. I guess that's an interesting feature. So once the green boxes are created, that's when it goes to that process of like building it up incrementally. First, it starts with the cliffside tiles because it's set up in 2 layers. You have the cliffside tiles on 1 layer. It draws these tiles first. Then it goes through and it figures out where do these tiles go. Man, I'm sorry for stuttering so much. And then it fills in all of these. It looks more like bushes than grass. Yes, when it's like this, but you have to remember that this is the cap of the cliff. In the context of the cliff, it does look like grass. I don't think it looks like a bush at all, because it's like spread out over the surface. It's like a surface. How will you handle being behind the cliffs? It's already done. Check it out. So that's all handled using the Y-sort algorithm. Need to head out. Happy Moonshire Monday. Thank you for stopping in, Buffalo Jake. Appreciate that. So the way it handles this is all through Y-sort craziness. It clusters the tiles, and then it Y-sorts them using this big Y-sort algorithm. It's very, very complicated, and it's still not working properly. I was showing earlier in the stream how there's a scenario that I've been working on last night where you have them stacked. Here we have an example of a big baseline set of blocks, and then up here we have a stacked version. It's a slab on a slab, and it works. You can jump up onto it, and functionally it works. So it's going to be really feasible to build out full levels with varying elevations that stack on top of each other. It all blends together nicely. It's going to be good. But like I was saying, this is heavily complex, the way that it works like this. How my character covers up these tiles when I stand here. When I stand here, my player covers up these tiles. But when I walk up here, now the tiles are covering up my player. It's using that Y-sort based on positioning. And when I jump up here, again, it's back to me covering up these. I jump up on top. Player's covering up the tiles again. Still good. But down here, it's broken. Down here, it's broken. So these tiles are supposed to be covering up the player through the Y-sort algorithm, but it's not. Something's getting broken along the way. It's very annoying. So I'm trying to figure out why would these tiles down here on the base level properly be Y-sorting, but up here, suddenly it's not. So that's why it's been kind of bugging me. I worked a couple hours on this last night and couldn't figure it out. In fact, like I was working so much on it, I had made so many changes that the whole thing kind of broke, and I had to revert back to the state. So it's going to be a lot of trial and error. Really, a lot of this stuff has been trial and error, trying to like make a change and see if it properly renders all of these tiles. Because the way that I made all this work was I had this map where I had all these junctions, these intersections, and these peninsulas, the different sizes and the different dimensions. And as I was developing the algorithm, I would just like walk through the whole level and I would see, okay, this section looks good, all these tiles look fine. And I would say, oh, here's one. And then like right here, there would be a broken tile, or like it wouldn't be filled in right. Or maybe the tile was rendering here. It was like one tile too far to the right. It was just so many crazy scenarios where I would have to pinpoint down to the exact tile marker. What scenario caused it to render here as opposed to here, for example? Something like that. It was a hard process to figure out. Do you think our good buddy Claude is just hanging back, rolling his AI eyes at you, just waiting to give you the answer? Genuinely, yes. In many cases, he is. Because the algorithm that goes into building up these tile sets is heavily complex, where I was able to get the baseline started, and then filling in the gaps to debug the complicated, like, tile-by-tile cases. It did tend to go like that, where I would articulate exactly what case. Actually, I can articulate this better. The way that these tile sets are organized, if I go to tile set here in level 2, is you have a tile set pattern, and we have the cap pattern and the wall pattern. This is referring to the cap. This is the cap. It's the cap of the cliff, and this is the wall of the cliff. And I was talking about earlier how I plan to have this mix and matchable, how you can have different cliff sides with different caps. So this is the wall of the cliff, and this is the cap of the cliff. And here is where we define the IDs for each tile. Here we see like row 1, cap northwest, cap north, cap northeast. And when we go to the image, it's talking about these 3 tiles. Cap northwest, cap northeast. Or sorry, cap north, cap northeast. And that's how this is organized, is it goes through like a grid, giving a named definition for every single tile in the structure. And some of these are very complex, such as cap VO northwest northeast. I'll actually take a step back. Here we have cap VONE. This means cap veering out northeast. So I get a little bit cute with my variable names, so I came up with a shorthand. VO means veer out, and XC means X stands for filler, filler converging. X is filler. That's why over here we have cap X. X means it's the filler color. Cap X is this tile right here. So when you have XO, or sorry, it was XC, that means you have X converging. That's what these are. You have the filler X converging into a direction, converging southeast. That's why this tile is XCNE. SE, southeast, not NE. And that's how the name definitions is given to all of the patterns. And like I was saying, I can swap out this grass tile set with like a snow one or a rocky one. As long as it follows this same organizational structure, it's going to be able to use these same IDs, and it's going to be able to generate the tile sets in game regardless of what the sprite sheet actually looks like. And the reason why I brought this up is because these IDs, how they have some sort of meaning behind them, is a big factor on how I was able to debug all of this. Because as I would like navigate around the map and I would find broken tiles, I would be able to identify this tile here. It's kind of hard to see. And actually, let me turn on the cells. Here's the cell grid. This is how I would debug the level generator. Is I would just go through and I would say, oh, I see that cell 8-7 at a 2 apex slab is not rendering correctly. It would be like, it would show this tile here, but it would be rendered here, and I would be like, okay, well, it's an off by 1 horizontal error, and then I would have to figure out where exactly is the code placing it here, and why is it doing 1 over, or sometimes it would be choosing the wrong tile. Where and actually, I can show this. Let's say that I swapped these where I say southwest and southeast. So now they're mapped improperly. Check it out. It's putting those tiles in the wrong spot. And this is kind of what it was like when I was debugging, is that I would go through, I would make a tiny change to the algorithm, And I would go through and I would try to find broken tiles that look like this. And then I would have to go into the algorithm and figure out, okay, why did it choose XC Southwest instead of choosing XC Southeast? And that's how all this got debugged. It was so annoying. Does Lua offer a function to read JSON files? No, I had to use an external library for that. Is the chunk system? The chunk system is meant to be for performance, because notice how there's a Y sort. How I walk behind these tiles, and these tiles are covering up the player. But when I walk down here, now it's not. A better example is this, is like, you see how the grass is covering up the player here. It's covering up the axe. But I walk down here, and it's not covering up the axe. It's using Y sort, and it would be very expensive to do Y sort on every individual tile. If every single one of these was performing its own logic, that would be very expensive and it would start to chug. So instead, it figures out which tiles have the same effective Y sort, which tiles will be placed in the same render order as other tiles, and it groups them by that. And when it has those groups, it's able to do the Y sorting a lot more efficiently, without needing to, you know, perform this logic on every single tile. That'd just be too much. It's pretty funny that Lua doesn't have native JSON support. As far as I know, it doesn't, but let's verify that. Does Lua have native JSON support? Or is it only through external libraries? Okay. By the way, I've gotten into the habit of writing through like this, like drive through. I really like it. It says, no, Lua does not have native JSON support in a standard library. This is a design choice consistent with Lua's philosophy of keeping the base language as minimal and lightweight as possible. And it gives some samples. That makes sense. So no, as expected, it does not. So the way that I read JSON is I have this json.lua file. This might actually be, I think that I custom made this myself a long time ago. I don't remember making it. Lua's very small source project. It relies on external libraries. Yeah, it does seem like that's the big benefit, is that everything is so small scale. Lua itself as like the interpreter, or if you package Lua all together, it is megabytes big. It is small. That's like why my game on Steam is small. It's like 100 megabytes. It's very small because Lua itself as a runtime is small, which allows Love2D to be small, which allows my game to be small. Most of the size comes from like the sound, the wave file. Well, have I been using wave files? I think I got rid of all the wave files and changed them to like OGs. I guess I don't mind using external libraries to read JSON files. In general, if you're using Lua, if you're using Love2D, or whatever, any framework, I use libraries a lot. And I was talking earlier in the stream about how much I enjoy open source code, how helpful it is for me. Like Animate, for example, I've been using this file for like 10 years. How long has this been out? 2011? That's crazy. I have been using this for 10 years because I started using Love2D when I was in college, which would have been 2016. So that sounds about right. You inspired me to work on my game? Awesome, that's cool to hear. Let me inspire you further. Don't wait for inspiration. Get into a habit of working on your game every single day, even if it's only for a little bit. That's how you actually make progress, because if you wait for inspiration, that motivation, it's going to go away. I don't feel inspired. I don't feel motivated every day. Many days I do, but some of them I don't. But I still get work done on those days where I don't. Well, libraries are used for reading JSON files. It's just that JSON.lua file that I made myself. This might be based off of one of the public ones, but I definitely added a lot of my own custom code to it. Rescue Squad, bye ChallaChat, getting ready for work. Thank you for stopping in. Appreciate that. We got about 5 more minutes left of chat. I think that for the remaining time, you've been replaying Hollow Knight. Nice. I'm a big fan of Hollow Knight. Has anyone played Silksong? I'm interested to hear what people's opinions on Silksong is. Especially if you played Hollow Knight. In the Pico 8 world, people are restoring to JSON-like strings for game data, they loop over and explode them back into objects. Interesting. Well, I mean, that is kind of what this is that the reason why JSON is nice is that it's consistent, is that it follows a very strong format, and that makes it consistent to parse, and that makes it makes it consistent to translate this into Lua data, and then back from Lua data into this, because you can always pretty reliably expect what it's going to look like. Love Silksong. I enjoyed it even more than Hollow Knight. I understand that. Old School Geek, lunch is on me today. Happy McDonald's Moonshire Monday. Thank you so much, Rick Carlson, the Old School Geek himself. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Silksong might be my fave MV next to Animal Well. MV. Metroidvania. Sorry, that took me a second. Yeah, there are many aspects of Silksong that I love. And when Silksong came out, I played it right away. And I talked on stream a little bit how I was frustrated that it was too punishing. I'm not mad that it's too hard. I'm mad that it's too punishing and you have to rerun a lot of the same routes. You have to grind for the scrap because you use tool currency. And I spent a lot of time doing really mundane, just running back and forth through the same areas, and I got bored at many parts of the game because of that. So I think the game would be near perfect if that aspect of the game was improved, where like instead of being sent all the way back to the last bench at every boss, exactly. Like I was so irritated. It's just such a long run back. I love hard bosses. I love learning the mechanics and getting good, but I don't like having to spend time getting back to it. Check every single wall as a reminder. That's another one. Is I got frustrated that there's so many like crumbling walls. You have a pretty strong incentive to literally smack every single wall in the game. And I think that's kind of damaging to the gameplay, because when I enter a room or when I go through a hallway, I don't just go through the hallway. I stop and I smack every inch of every wall, because it's hard to see. Like, you can't just rely on the visuals to see when there's a crumbling wall. Reminds me of old text-based NetHack. Interesting. Yeah, I see what you mean. Nightmare King Grim is perfect. Yes, totally. I love that fight. In fact, like I should go back and do that, because Hollow Knight was one of the first like really hard get good games that I've ever played, and I wasn't able to beat Grim. But I do remember that it was awesome that you fight him, you die, you run straight back in, and you fight him again. I love that. But on the flip side, when there's no stakes, that does kind of decrease the tension. Like when you're fighting Grohl, if that is the name, Grohl the Great, in Bilewater, and you're fighting him, and you know that if you die, there's a big punishment for it. You have to spend a full like 5 minutes getting all the way back to where you just were. It's a huge pain. Sometimes it might be more than 5 minutes. It was so annoying. So those high stakes kind of add to the tension. Same with the Act 1 main boss. That one took a lot of attempts, and it took a lot of run backs through that exact same area. And on one hand, that's annoying. That Jacksepticeye will make an animated R-rated Bloodborne movie. I did hear about that. I'm eager to see how that turns out, because in general, I'm a really big fan of indie anything. Indie music, indie films, indie games. I love when independent people create something. And the idea that like a YouTuber is making something on their own and is going to be putting out into the world, I love that. The Markiplier movie, I didn't see the Markiplier movie, but I want to, because I love the idea of an independent person competing against like the big Hollywood companies. This is the thing. I was talking earlier about the business of games, how games is a business, and how I wouldn't want to rely on game development for income, because I don't like the business side of art. And it's the same with movies. Movies kind of feel kind of corporate sometimes, because they're made by multi-million-dollar production studios, and they're funded like to such an astronomical level that it doesn't really feel very relatable. But when you think about Markiplier's movie, or sure, Jacksepticeye's animated movie, these are coming from independents, assuming that Jacksepticeye is funding it himself. Another famous independent movie, probably the most profitable one, is Passion of the Christ, which is the Christian, the movie about Jesus. It was made by, oh, what's this guy's name? Who's the guy that made Passion of the Christ? Who made Passion of the Christ? Was made by Mel Gibson. So the story behind that movie is that he was having trouble getting funding from like the Hollywood publishing companies, and eventually he's just like, screw it, I'm gonna do it myself. And he funded it himself, and that movie was wildly successful. And I find stories like that to be very inspiring. I'm sure that there's a lot more drama that went into that that film than just the money side. But I love hearing about independent projects. I love seeing success in the independent space. That's what inspires me, is hearing about that stuff. I love it. But yep, on that note, I think I'm gonna call it quits for the day. It was a very good stream. Thank you so much for everyone for being here. It was a great session. Got a lot of stuff talked about. Hello, person that I watch from time to time. Thank you for being here, Nart. But I will be back next week for yet another Moonshire Monday. Thank you, Baron, Restless Knight, Rick Carlson, Space Raygun, Adele, Ender, Nart, Tijlipa. Thank you so much for being here, and I will be back next week for another Moonshire Monday. Future Yee, Tridix, thank you so much, and I will be back next week. Bye, everyone.